Good morning, everyone. My name is Lucas Thomas from ltanswers.com, also known as LT Copywriting. I'd just like to welcome you today to my channel, and we're going to go over the 7 strategies to online image management. So why is online image management so important? Well, let's go over a story of my friend who used very poor image management. So what happened to him was he was in the middle of a job interview. He was saying all the right things and every one of his interviewers loved him. But what ended up happening was the human resources manager ended up Googling his name. And what happened was she saw his Facebook, she saw him drinking heavily, saw some other things that she didn't like, and because she saw these things before they had hired him, they ended up not hiring him. So that's why having or knowing these 7 strategies will help you avoid the same situation. So what is the first strategy to online image management? Well, it's controlling your comments. So what I mean by controlling your comments is, have you ever had a disagreement with someone else said on a YouTube video or a news article, and next thing you know, you get in an argument and you say, hey, you're a Nazi, which is the ultimate way of saying, you know, this argument is over and we've devolved into nothing but animals who are saying, hey, this is naysaying and name calling. So there's 3 things you have to consider when you're controlling your comments. Number 1 is online arguments. Number 2 is, can it be taken out of context? And then number 3, does it portray you poorly? So online arguments says, hey, I disagree with this person has to say, but next thing you know, but because you disagree with what they say, you end up devolving it into not an actual, constructive argument. It's just, people who are angry at each other and can be seen poorly if all your friends and your family and your boss can see it, and ultimately, they can form their own opinions about you. Number 2 is context. If something you say, especially in an argument, or can be totally taken out of context, such as political views, religious views, or anything else that you can say about something that you truly love or enjoy, but can ultimately be taken out of context and be used against you. Because the ultimate rule of if it can, it will be used against you. And ultimately, those 2 things can give you a bad portrayal online, and that's what you want to avoid. The second strategy to online image management is controlling your posts. This means controlling what you say, the pictures you post, as well as the videos. Another good thing to do while controlling your posts is controlling what other people say or post about you. This doesn't mean that every little thing that if someone says something negative about you that you request that they take it back or take it down. It's more lines of in your direct social circles. So if you go out on a night, have a night on the town, and you go drink a lot of beer and there's a lot of pictures taken, or anything that could be considered negative, that if an employer or someone that you're trying to impress sees, it would disappoint them. So really the easiest way to do this is just set up a relationship or a conversation with your friends or your social circle to say, hey, can you please take this down? I'm just trying to maintain my image online. You have to be really nice about it and just make sure you keep things civil. And usually I've been doing it for years, and I've never really had any problems with anyone saying, no, I'm not going to take that down, or, oh, no, I'm sorry about that, I didn't mean to do that, and there's usually no problems. And the third strategy to online image management is controlling your groups. By what I mean by controlling your groups is specifically the affiliations, the Facebook groups, and the other online organizations that you can add yourself to, either through social media, through online email addresses, and everything else. And a lot of people say, hey, why do I have to control my groups? And I'm not saying you can't have an opinion. All I'm saying is that, do you really want your opinion to be posted publicly on public record in social media? Because what happens is although you can have those opinions, but what will happen is let's say you have these opinions, you join these groups, and anyone who comes across your profile, and if they have like the differing opinion, or they have some sort of mindset, they can easily stereotype you, and it can cause you problems in the job field as well as your career, or getting any sort of other help when you're working. And a good example of this was the 1940s, 1950s Red Scare, which was which was a communist witch hunt led by the US government. And although a lot of people don't think this is relevant today, what happened with these people was they would either accidentally join or they would join just to learn more about it, but they would join these groups in college that were either socialist or communist, and they were affiliated with communists and socialists in America. And what ended up happening was, although they had only joined that group once or twice, because their names were affiliated, they had signed paperwork that said their names were affiliated with the organization. The US government went back, found that they had signed up for these classes, and automatically assumed that these people were raging communists and they wanted to overthrow the US government. And because they had this thought process, what they ended up doing they ended up firing these people. They ended up blacklisting them, making sure that they couldn't get jobs, and they pretty much ruined these people's lives, all because of something they did in college that they really didn't understand they were doing, which is a real big reason you need to control your groups. Because even though you had those opinions in college, doesn't mean that they should be public and they should affect your existence for the rest of your life. And that concludes our defensive strategies to online image management. Next up, we're going to get into the four offensive strategies to online image management. The first one's going to be posting useful content. By useful content, I mean how-to videos, tips and tricks, and sometimes even experiences. How-to videos. So in your industry, you want to become an expert in your field. The easiest way to do that is to start posting or being a part of the community. And if you want to be a part of the community, you want to help them with useful information, such as how-to videos. A great example of a how-to video is, let's say you're in finances and you're starting to begin a process, or you learned a process. The best way to post useful content is to explain what you learned about that process, what went right, what went wrong, and then go over exactly how you did it, and then posting it to everybody else so then they can learn the process themselves. Another great way to do this is to do tips and tricks, which is the nuances. Once you've done the how-to video and you've learned the basics of the process, you can teach people the tips and tricks to make that process that much better or that much more efficient. And once you've done those two things, you can eventually tell people your experiences, because there's two different sides to this coin. One side is the professionalism, which is the how-to videos and all informational. So it's going to be the how-to videos and the tips and tricks. But there's also the other side, which is the emotional. You don't want to be completely all professional. Sometimes you want to tell people, these are the things that went wrong. This is what made me frustrated during this process. And by sharing those experiences, you can help them know that although they might get frustrated, they will ultimately triumph over those frustrations just as you did, which is a great way to boost yourself online as well as your reputation and put you in a human light rather than just an informational light. And once you've posted enough useful content, eventually you have to position yourself as an expert. And the most qualifying thing about being an expert is not really big degrees or pedigree or anything. The biggest thing that qualifies an expert is whether or not someone asks you a question and you answer that question. And that's really all you need to do to become an expert in any field. You have to research, do trial and error and experiment in that field until you feel confident enough that you can answer anybody's questions. And once you're able to answer those questions, you've now positioned yourself as an expert. And then once you've positioned yourself as an expert, the biggest thing is they're going to ask questions and you're ultimately going to get them to listen. And once those people are listening to you and you've positioned yourself as an expert, you've now boosted your influence and you've boosted your reputation online. Once you start posting useful comments or how-to videos and everything else, and you're starting to position yourself as an expert, the quickest way to catapult yourself to success or as an expert is to actually become published. The quickest way, but also the hardest and can take the longest, is being published in a professional periodical, such as a news journal, a science journal, or any sort of trade magazine of your industry. If you don't want to do that, a very slow way to build your expertise is, let's say if there's a thought leader who also does, or who's also an expert in your field, you can befriend them. You can do guest posts on their either their blogs or their videos, and you can essentially become a side expert that they go to for information or ideas, and you can position yourself as an expert for them, which maybe positions you as an expert for their audience. Another great way, if you can't get published in a trade journal, in a local trade journal, or anything like that, you can expedite the process by publishing them yourself. So after doing strategy 4, which is posting useful comment, you can eventually take all that information, turn it into a book or some other publication, and you can publish it yourself. You can either do this through your own website, your blog, or through Amazon publishing. All of them are great ways to make yourself become an expert, because the best way to have an offensive strategy for online image management is to portray yourself as an expert, and this is a great way to do that. A great example of becoming an expert by being published is my dear friend who has a PhD in philosophy. He was writing papers all the time, but it wasn't until he was published in one of the best journals in philosophy that his career really took off. Once he was published in one of the best journals in philosophy, once he had that on his resume, it was very easy for him to get published in other journals, and it's pretty much started the slippery slope to his success, because getting published in one of the best journals ever led to more journals, which actually led to speaking appearances for a lot of universities and colleges, and he never would have been able to do that if he had never written papers specifically to be published in one of his trade journals, which is a great way to boost your image online and build your reputation, which is going to be the ultimate goal of the 4 offensive strategies to online image management. And the last strategy to online image management is going to be building a reputation. Now, this is going to be a culmination of all the other 6 strategies. It's going to include the defensive strategy, which is protecting what other people say about you as well as what you say yourself that can, put you in hot water or put you in a negative light. And the offensive strategies, which is posting useful content, positioning yourself as an expert, and ultimately being published. And the ultimate goal of all of this is to build your reputation, but more become a mentor to others. Because once you become a mentor, people will trust you. People will come to you for your expert opinion. They'll come to you for advice, and that should be your ultimate goal for your online image, is being someone people can come to for any of their problems, and you can either solve them or advise how they can get them solved. And this brings us to our conclusion, which a great fourth wall story is essentially my own story about how I've used these strategies to build my own online image and reputation. I've actually run as you know, www.ltanswers.com. I run a copywriting and professional writing business, as well as www.rhmreal.com. I also run a real estate business in my local town, and because I've started these multiple businesses and I've actually used these strategies over the years to become successful, I've been able to create or build myself my own reputation on and offline. And I've done this for both my professional writing company as well as my real estate company, which is more face-to-face or person-to-person sales. So I've been able to be successful on both online and offline. And that's actually a big reason why I've actually started this video channel, because I want to, take my successes, position myself as an expert and tell you exactly how I became successful today, just as you can be successful as a young professional. So if you're interested, please subscribe to my channel.